Jens, why don't you start off by telling us what is South Sudan?
Well, South Sudan is, well, first of all, it's the newest nation in the world, having born out of seceding from Sudan 2.5 years ago. It's a nation which has endured long conflict in their fight for recognition, fight for liberation from the government of Sudan, going through two civil wars, the last one ending with the peace agreement in 2005, including the plebiscite, which ultimately ended in the referendum and the subsequent secession of South Sudan.
Well, you've spent quite a bit of time in South Sudan. Can you tell me a little bit about your experiences while you've been there?
Yeah, South Sudan is well, it's a vast country, almost the size of South Africa, if I'm not mistaken, but inhabited by only, I think, 11 million people. So it's vast and not as densely populated as South Africa. And because of these conflicts that the country have endured for so long, it's vastly underdeveloped. Very little infrastructure, both in terms of roads, schools, clinics, water pumps. So it's a very mixed country as well, with many different cultures, many different groups. I think it's about 40 different languages, or sub-languages as well. So it's a mosaic of many different cultures, and it's a fascinating country.
Well, that was a great little brief history of South Sudan. And I think everyone really kind of wants to get a grasp on why the people in South Sudan are killing each other.
Yeah, well, thankfully not all the people in South Sudan are killing each other. What's going on now is a conflict between, well, has started between two rival political groups, and the military outlets, the armies, militias, various groups loyal to these two parties. It has some ethnic elements. We have seen targeting of the opposing ethnic groups, which of course is incredibly sad. It's very brutal. So it has its history in the conflicts that we mentioned earlier. But the current conflict is triggered by a political rivalry between two opposing groups within the governing party.
Well, the South Sudan is independent now, and this seems to be ethnic fighting. Why didn't independence stop the ethnic killing in Sudan?
Well, it's a difficult question. Independence is just part of a long process. As I said earlier, there's a vast lack of infrastructure in many different ways, and none of that comes automatically with independence. So it takes time to build all of these institutions, these facilities, which can help people, education, clinics, and so forth. And of course, none of that comes straight after independence, in particular considering that after so many years of conflict, South Sudan has such a long way to go in terms of building infrastructure. Also building reconciliation, because it has been an incredibly violent and incredibly bloody conflict, and those reconciliation processes or scars that they have led to needs to heal, and it takes time.
I want to talk about what's going on there right now. You did mention it is two different political parties who are fighting. On the ground in Sudan, what is everyday life like for the people there now?
Well, in the areas where we work, in very different areas of the country, both in the capital Juba, in the states, in the provinces, it's a bit different. In Juba, for example, we've seen thousands of people, and I'm sure you've seen the footage of people seeking protection in these UNMIS, the United Nations peacekeeping missions compounds, because they fear for their safety, and the life they experience in these compounds or camps almost is incredibly difficult. They fled with minutes' notice. They have left belongings behind into a camp where there is little shelter, there's little sanitation, there's little water. So one can only, looking at pictures as well, but one can imagine having to flee with minutes' notice into an area where there is nothing, how difficult that is. So it's sad to see, because people are experiencing very, very difficult conditions at the moment, from all groups, all walks of life, who have led the fighting. And already, because of the history of conflict, the people of South Sudan have had a very difficult times, experiencing very tough ordeals. So this is just making bad worse, so to say.